I wonder how people who support the Israeli government is going to defend the Israeli government committing the war crimes of massacring people, getting aid from food trucks. Uh, 100 people were killed, over 700 were injured. Who knows how many died from their injuries? Uh, this isn't something the good guys do. This is something evil people do, where they ambush starving citizens trying to get aid from food trucks.
Global outcry following the deadly Gaza aid convoy carnage is growing. Israel is facing mounting pressure to investigate and to pause fighting in the region where more than 30,000 Palestinians have died. MTS Ty.
Yeah, what? You can't expect the Israeli government to investigate what happened and rule against themselves. They're gonna say that the IDF are justified.
is in Tel Aviv. MTS, good morning.
Good morning. Well, UN observers in Gaza have said the majority of Palestinians being treated for injuries following the assault on the convoy are suffering from gunshot and shrapnel wounds. As the World Food Program warns, 500,000 Palestinians, a quarter of Gaza's entire population, are now at risk of famine. It was supposed to be the first major shipments of aid into northern Gaza in months, but it quickly became what Palestinian leaders are describing as a heinous massacre after Israeli forces opened fire on thousands of Palestinians who had gathered for desperately needed food aid. As the sun rose, the aftermath was laid bare. At least 112 people were killed and over 760 injured, all for.
So I'm curious if the Israeli government is justified in committing a genocide against the Palestinian people for Hamas, does this mean like now the innocent Palestinians are justified in defending themselves against the Israeli government for their massacre uh uh that happened here? I mean, you would think so with the way of the Zionist logic. Uh, but if any Palestinian actually tries to defend themselves, they just get mowed down by the Israeli government and considered a terrorist. Yet the Israeli government gets to uh, massacre hundreds of people and what, just be considered self-defense or something? How twisted has this world become?
Trying to get something to eat. The United Nations has sent observers to Gaza City's Al Shifa hospital, where they found the majority of wounded there had suffered from bullet and shrapnel wounds, like Mahmoud Ahmed. The moment the aid trucks began arriving, I went to go meet it, he says, and then a tank and drone began firing at us. I lay in a pool of my own blood before I was brought here. Israel continues to insist the deaths were caused by a stampede, but the chaos at the aid convoy has only underscored how desperate the situation across Gaza is since.
So the Israeli government is claiming that a stampede somehow created bullet wounds and shrapnel injury in people. Like, how does that make sense? Did they have, like, guns on their feet or something? Were they, like, throwing bombs at each other or something? Like, that's insane to just outright lie about the actions when it's easily provable that this was caused by the IDF.
Since the start of the war, the Israeli military has blocked most food, water, and medicine into the besieged Palestinian territory. And as the White House prepares to airdrop aid into Gaza, President Biden says he hopes a ceasefire and hostage release deal can still be reached before the start of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan on March 10th. We met Mira Legem Gonen, the mother.
Well, even if the hostage deal does happen, uh, the hostages killed by the Israeli government, because there's been several. You had 3 that was shot up by the IDF, and then you had like 13 or so that were blown up with airstrikes. You had a group of 5 where 3 died in an airstrike. 2 survived and got rescued, and then you had a group of 10 that died in an airstrike, even though the Israeli government knew that the hostages were there. They still attacked the building that the hostages were located in.
Of hostage Romy Gonen as she marched to Jerusalem to demand a deal.
There's already some concern that Prime Minister Netanyahu may try to torpedo any deal. Are you worried about that?
Prime Minister Netanyahu understands that he has the power to decide if this will happen now.
But there is still no deal that would see hostages released or a ceasefire come into effect in Gaza, where the situation for civilians and hostages